treatments that we're doing. So next slide. And then these two pictures, of course, one up to the left showing our folks in action and how you see the slash as they are thinning out these trees. And most of the trees that they're targeting are understory or seedlings or saplings, you know, the regenerating trees that come up under the canopy, and then which are the true fire hazard when it comes to, you know, wildfires in the area. So they want to thin out the understory, and the resulting effect is the piles down to the right, and that's a pretty typical picture of how our piles look. And you guys are probably really familiar with those type of piles in Unit 1 in Cedar Park there. Go ahead. The next picture again shows the piles, you know, prior to, and I believe these are the same piles in each picture, but it shows the kind of the material, how the material stacked, what the piles look like in how we build them. You can see the spacing from the trees. I know that was one question that was that Will had sent along to me, is there was some concern with pile distances from reserve or leaf trees. And so generally speaking, and it changes from project to project, but in Cedar Park, the standard for pile placement from reserve trees is about 10 feet from the bowl of the trees. So in other projects, we do space out the piles a little bit more when the canopy is naturally open anyways, and we might be able to get piles further away from the trees. But in this fuel type, generally speaking, the piles are located 10 feet away from the boles of the trees. And then the bottom picture also depicts the piles on fire. And more or less, what we're showing here is that once you burn the piles down, you see that it's quite a bit more open from the cutting. But the thing I want to stress is, and I know this was a question as well, with the flame heights that come off the piles, a lot of times, if we're thinning correctly and have good spacing, there'll be very little impingement from the fire into the canopy. But that's not always the case. When you have to open up a stand of trees significantly, like this pile or this picture in the bottom, we open up the trees more, it causes more wind throw and things like that. So we can't always get the canopy open as wide open as the picture you see here. And for that reason, sometimes we may have impingement and flames that will scorch or torch out trees. That's pretty natural, and we plan for that. There are some benefits of having these piles burn into the trees. We are removing dead trees, so the result is that there are very few wildlife trees left over after thinning. So when the flames get into these other trees and actually kill the trees, it's actually a benefit for wildlife. But not rarely, but you'd be surprised at how little trees actually get impacted during this pile burns. Okay, next. These two pictures are up Dunraven Glade Road, close to you folks in Drake. So I think the top picture, what's best about the top picture is it shows what kind of conditions we will be burning in as far as snow is concerned. It's a distance picture with a view, and you guys, during the days, it's not uncommon to see smoke like this off into the distance on that ridge line. So that's pretty standard to be able to see smoke from that. The bottom picture is great because it depicts the proximity to a home. So we have national forest land that butts right up against some private property, and we have the piles that are lit and burning, and firefighters monitoring those, and then the resultant smoke, and you can see the smoke rising up and trailing off into the distance. But it's not uncommon when the urban interface, private land meets forest, that will get piles up close to private property. Now with Cedar Park and most of all our pile projects from a contract side of things, we are requiring our contract cutters to build piles at least 50 feet from any sort of target or any sort of homes, private property, fence lines and stuff like that. So the standard is 50 feet, just so you guys are aware of that. And I knew there were some questions on how close these piles are to structures and such. We also take into account things like power lines and so forth, where I think power lines, it's even more of a distance. We got 100-foot separation between power poles, but 50 feet is pretty much a standard for private property, stream banks or stream right-of-ways. And then, and for roads, it can be even closer. We can go 10 feet away from roads. So it may seem a little close, but that's the standard for Cedar Park in general. So pile sizes, Will, if you want to just jump back real quick, just so you guys have if you can go back a slide. I don't know if you can.
I'm trying, we'll see how fancy I can get here.
There you go. So the piles up to the upper left-hand side there, the standard for building these piles can be up to 10 to 12 feet in height, or 12 feet in height with a 10-foot diameter. Realistically, some of these piles will be around 8 foot in diameter with 8-foot height, and as the season goes along and the material in the piles cure out, they actually shrink down smaller. So that's another contract objective when the contract crews are running through cutting in piles or cutting and piling, that they have to pay attention to, and it's actually contract specific. So just so you have a frame of reference for those piles, that's generally how large they are. Okay, we can go back. And then one more. Real quickly, a map of the Cedar Park project area, and it has the proposed fuels treatments. Unit 1, you guys are intimately familiar with, down to the south by Palisade, is ready to go, cut, piled, and we will be looking at burning piles in that specific unit this year, this winter, and it could be as soon as next week. It's all dependent on snow, and the last time we had resources up in the unit, there was not nearly enough snow. And to be honest, if the weather keeps up like this, there might not be enough snow this year. That's not unusual in these lower elevations to have a pile unit that doesn't get enough snow all through the winter. And in some winters you have more than enough. So that's the closest objective that we really evaluate before we go and do any burning. We have to review our burn plan, the plan that tells us how we do things when it comes to prescribed fire. We have to review our burn plan right now and get that approved by our district ranger. And then we also will be debriefing our firefighters operationally before they even engage in any prescribed fire pile burning this year. So there's a lot of steps that we undertake prior to even jumping into Unit 1. But the biggest thing is the weather and the snowpack for sure. And then I think another question was a timeline on when these other units and project areas will be facilitated. I believe, and this is more of a question for our timber and silvicultural folks, but I believe that I've heard, I think it's Unit 2 or the units, the 32, 33, 9 units, kind of like a phase 2 off to the west there, northwest, is slated for, I think that's been bid out already to contract. So a private company has bid on those units, and we're just waiting to accept that bid on the timber side of things. So from my understanding, could be they could be cutting in there as early as this spring and into the summer in that phase 2. Beyond that, I'm not sure on the northern units, kind of the phase 3. But generally speaking, I would imagine that if it goes out to bid soon, it could be as early as next summer for that as well, but perhaps the next summer. We're focused in right now on what's been completed from the prescribed fire side of things in Unit 1 and Phase 1. So, but this map is it's a good map because it shows all the private, and then it shows exactly in the polka dots where we kind of try to meet our objectives on Forest Service land to develop pile burning and work in the wildland urban interface. Okay. And then this slide is kind of the 20,000-foot view of what our overall plans on the Arapahoe Roosevelt National Forest, as far as developing projects in areas that we rate as high, moderate, or low risk. So this is our wildfire risk management map, and you can see, if you can see the blue star, that's Drake. And what this map is really, I think the main point on these maps are to identify our watersheds in the blue. To the north, of course, is the Cashel-Pooter, the Big Thompson Watershed, which we're talking about today, kind of mid map, and then the St. Vrain and on down towards Denver. So these watersheds are where we're focusing our efforts as far as mitigation goes. And then you'll also see, if you can, the black outlines are prescribed project areas that kind of fit in line with in the watersheds. And then they more or less focus in on areas that have been identified as moderate, high, or very high risk. And our forest leadership is overarching game plan for the forest is to build what they're calling a ribbon of prescribed fire and fuels treatments, essentially from the Wyoming border on down to I-70, spanning the length of our forest. So you can see all the different project outlines running north to south. So again, focusing on the watersheds and the cooperative interagency work that we do, and building these projects moving forward to tackle the wildfire risk along the Front Range. And looks like it's wrap up time for me. So the takeaway here is once we start burning piles, and you guys, if you're not informed or on any email list through the Forest Service, I have Reghan Cloudman right here. Is Reghan Cloudman's contact information. That's pretty handy to get it. Reghan can send out intel or notifications when we go to burn. So that's one way to reach Reghan. She's our public information. And lastly, let's see, there's INSEE-Web, which you guys are probably familiar with from the fire. Another way to get info on our projects. And then, of course, we post signs around the area when we're conducting the actual burns. Those get blown over from time to time. So the best way is to really get a hold of Reghan and get on her list, and she'll notify you when we're doing our project. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Matt. We'll let Reghan take the floor now and catch us up a little bit on Cameron Peak fire recovery efforts going on. I did want to let everyone know, if you have additional questions on Cameron Peak fire, we did get an offer this week from Larimer County Office of Emergency Management. If communities are interested in learning more and having a specific presentation that pertains to post-fire recovery, that we can help organize that. So in our Q&A session, just let me know if that is something of interest to people.
Great. So yeah, my contact information was there just to give people an idea. Usually towards the beginning of the season, I just sent off kind of that kickoff email to all of the residents that I have on my list and all those interested. I'm letting them know all the places we might burn. What we found is that once we get into a groove, if we do have snow, when we burn thousands and thousands of piles some years, is that I was inundating people. So what typically happens is that I will, and I didn't introduce myself, Reghan Cloudman, Public Affairs on the Arapahoe and Roosevelt National Forest. And I've been here for over 18 years now, working out of our Fort Collins office. So been around a while, doing public information the whole time. But what we found was that we didn't want to inundate people, but we want to make sure you know what's going on. So typically once we start burning, it's about an email a week, just letting you know that, hey, if conditions are right, we could be in your area. So you know, if you see smoke, that's probably what it is. So I've gotten lots of people actually from Cedar Park. So thank you, Courtney, for sending that email out. Added lots of people from the Drake area to my email list, and I'm happy to add people. It's easy. It's just a copy and paste. So the more the merrier. So I also worked on the Cameron Peak fire throughout the duration and continue to work every day as we are going to continue to in the Forest Service with fire recovery. And so I was just going to go over kind of the three types of kind of recovery efforts that take place after a fire, or even towards the end, as we saw with Cameron Peak for as long as it went on, and kind of just go over those really briefly and talk a little bit about that broader long-term recovery and what that's going to look like here in Larimer County and with the Forest Service. So the first thing that happens is the fire suppression repairs, where we have cleared those lines, where we have cut down lots and lots of trees. We go and we do work to repair that on the landscape. So this is still ongoing, particularly the last team, full incident management team we had was able to get a lot done. The conditions allowed for that, but we did get snow. And so right now we've got most, I don't know if it's all, but we've got most of the timber that was cut for fire lines. Most of those now processed and decked and ready for a timber sale. So that's where that is going. And again, this is all on National Forest System lands. So Larimer County, if you go to their page for the Cameron Peak Fire, has their email contact, and you can reach out to them for those fire suppression repairs on private land. So come spring, there's still going to be some of that work. Once the snow melts, there's still going to be fire suppression repair work taking place. So expect to see that. The next step for us is our burn area emergency response, or BEAR. And this assessment really is a rapid assessment of specialists from soil scientists, hydrologists, biologists, recreation, engineering, all sorts of people that work with the Forest Service. And they do an assessment to look at the imminent threats to life and safety and property and critical resources that are on National Forest System lands. So again, just National Forest System lands. However, one of the things that comes out of it is the soil burn severity map. And that's something that we share out with all of our partners so that they can utilize that data as they're starting to do their analysis for project work for their infrastructure that may be on Forest Service land or off, and those downstream efforts and the county, that sort of thing. So on the NC website, it is separate from the Cameron Peak Fire site. There's a separate one just for BEAR. The soil burn severity map is there if people want to take a look at it, as well as an executive summary of the report. There's a lot of information in that executive summary, but if folks are interested in kind of what those details might be of what we're looking to do, all of that is said with the fact that there was snow coverage when most of this work took place. It actually took place in two parts. Because the fire just continued to grow. So there may be more work, there may be more analysis. I believe it's like 120 or 140 miles of trail within the burn area. And obviously we did not hike all of that while the fire was going or once the snow had fallen. So there's some more work to do, but this was kind of that snapshot that could be done quickly to give us an idea of some of the things that we need to do. So most of that implementation will take place next spring and summer. You'll see things like we have already had volunteers help us remove some bridges off of trails that we were worried would get washed away and then cause downstream issues. But there will be other work that will need to take place on roads and on trails and things like that. So the details of those roads that they're most concerned about, which might be something that's interesting to the community, is in that executive summary report. And yeah, so that's kind of where we are with Bear. Expect to see some of that that work taking place down the road come spring and summer after snow melts. And then the next part is that long-term recovery, and we can go to the next slide. So we are really fortunate here in Larimer County to have so many amazing organizations that care about our natural resources and our water and our forest health. And so along with the Forest Service, Larimer County is incredibly engaged, obviously, particularly on that private land side. But we also have a lot of watershed organizations and others like water providers, City of Fort Collins, City of Greeley, all taking part in this long-term recovery and looking at really down the road. You know, we have experience from High Park. We know, and experience, unfortunately, from the flood. We've had too many natural disasters here in Larimer County in recent years, that it takes a while. Like, none of this is fast. And the full scope of what we're really going to be up against is still to be seen as we see what unfolds into the spring. So the best place to get information as we move forward will be at this website and this Facebook page. There's also a Twitter account for those who do that. And this was set up to, the Larimer County set this up for all the entities to participate in on previous disasters. Right now, if you go there, you'll see a lot of information about COVID right now. But as more things come out about this long-term recovery effort, this will be kind of the clearinghouse for all of it. All the individual entities will have their own information. We'll put stuff out on our Facebook page and website, but we'll be tagging this location so that they can share everything and be that clearinghouse for folks, so they don't have to hopefully go look in too many places. So that's kind of where we are there. We're having, I believe it's bi-weekly meetings as a kind of a large group of all of these participating entities to talk about how we're moving forward and share information. The information officers from all of them are also meeting and trying to figure out the best way to share information out to you folks as well. So stay tuned. Information will continue to be coming in the coming weeks and months about this longer term effort.
Great, thank you, Reghan. We're going to hold off on questions as we're going to listen to our next presenter, who's pulling up his own computer screen. I think I successfully unshared mine. Give me a nod if I did. And will you go ahead and unmute Daniel? Great. Daniel, welcome.
Hello. Let me share my screen here. Is that successful? Can you see my screen? I'm seeing thumbs up. All right. All systems go. Well, hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm down here in Fort Collins, and we've been getting snow all day, which is always nice. Hopefully we can get some more snow up the hill and we can do some more pile burning. As Courtney said, my name is Daniel Godwin. I'm the Assistant Director of Fire Management with the Forest Stewards Guild. So we're a nationwide nonprofit, and we've got an office here in Loveland. And we do a lot of different things, but one of the things that we do is really focus on prescribed fire, particularly pile burning in this area. And as a nonprofit, we're able to do pile burning on private lands, which just opens up a lot of opportunities to work with a lot of different partners. So I'm going to go to my next slide here. So we will be working with Courtney on this Storm Mountain pile project. And this is not a picture from Storm Mountain, but I put it here because it's a pretty picture. And it's nice to see what different kinds of piles can look like and what they're burning. You know, some people get pretty worried about pile burning, and I understand the concern, but really a lot of it's much more like just a lot of different bonfires out there on the hill. Your fire behavior is not an extreme thing. It's not going to cause a big running crown fire or anything like that. It's just, it's a step up from what you're generally putting s'mores around up there. So the project that Courtney's been organizing is being cut this spring. So they'll be doing those treatments. And we're expecting that, you know, knock on wood, weather providing, we'll be able to be up there next winter burning these piles, which is exciting. We'll have a team of experienced firefighters up there burning. Just like the Forest Service, we write a very in-depth plan. We have the plan reviewed. We have highly qualified individuals leading the project. We follow all the same standards that they do. They're these National Wildfire Coordinating Group standards, so that we are checking the same boxes so we can all work together. And we'll also be doing this work in coordination with a lot of different other partners. We hope to have a lot of, as they joke, a lot of different colored helmets up there on the hill. And so from fire protection districts to any other qualified fire groups in the area that we can get up there. And we're building out these cooperative agreements to make this possible, because really we all recognize in the fire community that we can't do this alone. We got to work together. It's a shared stewardship kind of thing. And if we work together, we can do a lot more than if we all try and play our own games together on our own. So that's, and the Arapahoe Roosevelt and all the different other agencies in Larimer County are really great about this. You know, I've worked in a lot of different areas across the country, and not everybody is so engaged. You can see my new dog who's joining me occasionally here. I don't know if she'll be up on the hill when we're burning piles or not, but we'll see if we can get a little Nomex jacket for her. But not everybody is as engaged with working together to try and do this reduction in wildfire risk. So I'm always excited to be working with partners here in Larimer County. So some of the folks that'll be doing this work is a new pile burn crew that we have funding from Great Outdoors Colorado, which is funding from the lottery money. And this crew we have starting on February 1st, and they'll be working across the Big Thompson and Cache La Poudre watershed to be treating acres, you know, thinning projects, building piles, and burning piles, and then supporting different agencies in the projects that they're doing. So, you know, if we don't have the right window to be burning a project that we've got, we can be helping other people that may have that window as well. And this is part of that shared stewardship model of, you know, fire doesn't know property boundaries. So as we're trying to prevent major wildfires, we shouldn't be as focused on property values or property boundaries either. And so this team is getting involved. We'll be hearing more about them in the future, and we'll be reaching out and working with private landowners that we've identified as perhaps important from a landscape scale wildfire risk perspective, whose properties we may want to work with to see if there are some opportunities to work together for treatment. So one thing we're also putting on up in the Cache La Poudre watershed up in Red Feather Lakes is a pile building workshop, because we've had a number of folks reach out and say, hey, you know, I'm interested in mitigating the wildfire risk on my property, but, you know, I'm not really sure what makes a good pile. And it's a good question to ask, because, you know, just like when you're building a campfire, you can't just throw things into a heap and expect it to burn well, right? You know, we've all seen those first year Boy Scouts who just think they can do anything, and it doesn't burn very well, does it? And so it takes some skill and it takes some thought. And so we're offering a workshop up actually this weekend at the Scout Camp up in Red Feather Lakes around in there. And it'll be how to build piles, how to build better piles so that when you do have a good opportunity, you're setting yourself up for success. Let's see, I'm seeing something in the chat. Yep, okay. And we're excited to bring a pile building workshop into the Big Thompson as well. And so we'll be working with Courtney in the future on this and look forward to more announcements on that project. And just as kind of a caveat, the work will be done outside. We're doing good COVID safe processes for this. So make sure will be wearing masks and has good social distancing in place. And so we can continue to learn how to mitigate our wildfire risk, even in the current conditions. And I think lastly, I want to bring up this idea of neighbors helping neighbors. And that's one thing we've been working to support. So the state of Colorado offers training so that residents can get a degree of training and liability protection when they're burning piles on their property. But some of the feedback we've gotten from some of the folks that have taken this, particularly folks that are new to doing this, is that they still want a little bit of help to do their own pile burns. And that's okay. You know, this is, if you haven't done this before, there is a bit of a lift to it, right? In some ways, it's very easy. I mean, humans have been burning things since before they were humans, since it was, we were all a lot furrier than we are now, right? But at the same time, there is a degree of complexity to it, and it's easy to get a little worried about this. And so what we're looking to do is find folks that are interested in burning piles that they may already have, or building and then burning those piles, and talking with them and learning what concerns they have, and maybe linking them with other people in their community. So if Jill on this side wants to burn her piles, and Bob over here says, well, I've never burned piles, but I'm interested in it and I'd like to do this work, they can work together. And when they have a good burn day, they can maybe burn the 5 piles they've got in their backyard, right? And so we can be there and say, you know, this pile burn crew can come coach you through the process, can help you go through this, answer any questions you may have, so that, you know, we can kind of jumpstart this community of practice of people that are out here that are committed to reducing the wildfire risk in their communities, and who want to work with each other to try and, just like a neighborhood watch, try and make things better for their community working together. So if that's something you're interested in, please reach out to myself or to Courtney, and let's start talking, because we're here to see this good work get done. And we know that there's a number of different challenges that are out there, and we want to help you. So that's all I got. That's the end of my slideshow. And Courtney, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to the residents of Cedar Park today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Daniel. We'll hear from you more in the Q&A session. We're going to pass the baton over to Matthew Marshall, NRCS, Big Thompson, oh my goodness, Conservation District. Didn't want to confuse you with our title too much.
A lot of Big Thompsons around here for sure. So yeah, like Courtney just said, I am the Forest Programs Director for the Big Thompson Conservation District. And just so we make sure we don't go over time here, I'm going to make this quick and dirty. I'll direct you guys to our website to look for some more info if you're interested. That's just bigthompson.org. So pretty simple. We've got some programmatic info and some before and after pictures of some of our work. So just a quick rundown, kind of what the Big Thompson Conservation District is doing here is we partnered with the NRCS, which is the Natural Resource Conservation Service, to implement what we call the Healthy Forest Initiative. The Healthy Forest Initiative is us utilizing Farm Bill funds on private lands to kind of set back the clocks of your forest and give us something that's a little bit more functional like we had in the past. The graphic that you guys can see up here is kind of just something that makes it really easy to understand how quickly our forests can change and what we're trying to do to get them back to what they're supposed to be. So the photo on the left is a 1940 aerial imagery of something that's just directly south across the Big Thompson River of where your community is now, compared to the 2017 imagery that we took off of Google Earth. So you can see how drastically the densities have shifted on here, and that's kind of what's leading us towards these catastrophic wildfires. So through the Healthy Forest Initiative, we're able to utilize those funds to do mechanical thinnings on properties where we're able to do 100% removal of the trees and the biomass on the land. We kind of look at this as a big multi-resource benefit by not only restoring our forests back to a functioning state of when they received fire, within the 5 to 25 year interval that we hear in the Big Thompson, and also reducing sediment deposits after wildfire into our drinking water supply, protecting some of the critical wildlife habitat areas, as well as improving range and soil health. So it's kind of a multifaceted benefit, but we've held great success in our program so far. We've done most of our work up in the Estes Park region, but are working a little bit around Carter Lake and Pinewood Reservoir now, and actually look forward to a project up in the Storm Mountain community here in 2021. So I'm sure I'll be seeing a lot of you guys again while we work up in the area. We'll be doing a little project up on Spruce Mountain Drive on the north end. So feel free to flag us down anytime you see us up there, and we can help to answer some more questions. Just quickly to touch on, what can we do for you guys? So just some quick criteria, and again, you can kind of see this stuff on our website. But we're looking for some larger acreage landowners to implement these practices on. So we're looking for somewhere around the 35 acres or greater. We need some relatively flat terrain so that we can get the machines on the land. We're not doing the pile burning or hand thinning, so it's definitely a little bit of a different project. Not defensible space, but more a total ecosystem restoration. So with that, like I said, I made it quick and dirty here, so we can answer some questions at the end. And again, I'll direct you guys to our website, and you can reach out anytime. We'll answer anything else and set up a site visit if anyone's interested. So thanks for putting this on, Courtney and Will. I'm excited to work with all you guys and the guild here to get some more work done up in the community.
Great. Thank you, Matt. We'll go ahead and put up your contact information in the chat box as well, so people can reach out for more individual information if interested. NRCS is a great partner, and the Conservation District actually recently also had a news article, I think, in, what was it? The Coloradoan?
Yeah, we were lucky that we got published in the Coloradoan, which has been great for our program. A lot of good outreach here. So hopefully we can prevent some more of these large-scale wildfires in the future.
Great. Thanks again. And so we're going to move into the last project. I'm going to try to quickly cover this in about 3 minutes. One request before I hop in, all of our presenters, thank you so much for being here. I do also hope if we have Q&A session, if that continues on just past the 6 o'clock hour, feel free to stay around as long as you are able to. But I know it is dinner time and families are there to be attended to since we're all at home right now. So quickly, in 3 to 5 minutes, I just wanted to provide some updates on upcoming Big Thompson Watershed Coalition projects. The first one you all heard Daniel also referred to, our project with Sylvandale in the Cedar Park area, in the Cedar Park Meadow. So we were able, because of the price points hit and the contractors that we had submit proposals for the project, we were actually able to feasibly do all 100 acres. We originally didn't know if it was going to be 50 or working our way up to 100, but because we got low price points and economies of scales were at play, we were able to focus on all 100 acres. As we mentioned before, this was delayed because of the Cameron Peak fire. We weren't allowed to allow contractors into the area, but we did get confirmation that they are aiming for April of this year, April 2021, to get their crews out. And over about a period of 10 to 14 days, their 14 crew members will be able to accomplish all 100 acres. And that is amazing light speed for forest management work on the ground. So this should be a very quick project. You can expect one van and one truck coming in and out of the gate and the area on a daily basis over those approximately 14 days. As we mentioned, 2021 to 2022 is when we're aiming to burn those piles. And moving on to our next project opportunity, this was a new one. It was a grant that we applied to with the COCO AIM group, so it's coalitions and collaboratives. They have a forest action implementation and management project grant fund that we were able to source about $50,000 to work with landowners, specifically in the Cedar Park Storm Mountain community, on defensible space, and then with some landowners we're going to be able to expand into general forest management on the periphery of that defensible space. So I just wanted to let you all know some criteria that we're looking for. This is meant to be a demonstration project, so to exhibit different types of forest thinning practices. You can see up here in this box that we've outlined a few different kind of treatment designs that we're going to be working with landowners on. So we're looking for about 8 landowners total, going to do approximately a combined 20 acres, with the majority of that, well, not the majority technically, 8 acres of that will be defensible space, and the remaining 12 acres will be a mix of forest treatments. And we're working with small landowners who are in the 3/4 of an acre to the 5 acre range, and then medium-sized landowners that are kind of in the 6 to 20 acre range. And as I mentioned, the goal is a demonstration project. So we're hoping people will apply to this grant funding source, work with us. It's going to be a cost share program where our grant that we have in hand and BTWC will split the cost with landowners to do both the defensible space and the larger treatment. And we want these to be areas that are visible, so the general community could drive by on the roadways, take a look at the treatment. We're hoping to post signage temporarily and maybe even do a site tour or 2 in the next year of those landowners that we do partner with, to really explain to people, help them understand the differences of the treatment practices, what it looks like on the ground, what is the cost estimate associated with those practices, and what are potential impacts to reducing fire risk in the area. So taking a look at the prices here that I have, we just wanted to provide on the left table is a general of what we found when we've placed a proposal out for contractors to bid on. And it's a huge range. We have people coming in for defensible space, anything from $750 an acre for that treatment to almost $4,000 an acre. For general forest thinning, same range, $800 to almost $3,800 an acre. So this is where you can really get the idea that expanding those acres, working with your neighbors, lumping different parcels together to treat more acres really improves the economy of scale and the price points that we're able to hit. Our goal for this project is to do about $2,500 an acre. Hopefully we get a bid at that price, but that's why the coalition hopes to manage this contract with the contractor, working with one group to treat across all the landowner acres. That'll help us reduce the prices and also ease the transfer of monies. We hope landowners will contribute 50% for defensible space acres, which you can see a general price range over here in the right table. And then for acreage beyond the defensible space, we'll actually be able to do some price cuts to drop the price per acre for larger areas treated. I think that's enough to tell you at least a little introduction on that project. I do have, oh, there is one more part. I won't forget this last slide. Another component of this grant is to work with you all across the community to think about general forest planning. When you think of your community, when you think of future fire and forest health needs, where are your greatest needs? What are interest areas? Is it shared roadways? Is it shared community spaces? Is it individual driveways or areas around homes? So thinking about how do we just improve these conversations and focus energies while we have partner entities working together, such as everyone who showed up to present today, working more closely with community members to determine an action plan. How do we move forward? And how do we really increase the pace and scale of forest thinning and forest management in this area? So with that, I will just pull up this slide as a little holder slide as we go to Q&A. Feel free to, what I usually suggest is take a picture with your camera phone, or you can do a screenshot on your computer just so you have all of our contact information. We can also circulate this slideshow out after the meeting. So feel free to reach out to any of us. Everyone has openly and willingly shared their contact information, so they do expect to hear from you. And with that, Will, do you want to go ahead and release the phone lines? We can go ahead and take everyone off mute. You are welcome to join us by video and audio. We would love to hear from you all. What are some questions after hearing from our speakers? What are main concerns or other interests that you have for your community in regards to post-fire recovery or general forest management?
And we did have a question from Deb, and she asked that, is the detailed burn plan for the Cedar Park pile burning available to the public?
Great question. Daniel, let us know. I think, Will, if you want to take him off of mute and take everybody off of mute.
Everyone should be able to unmute themselves manually now.
Oh, great. It's a new function for us on this webinar, so go ahead and unmute yourselves if you would like to speak. But Daniel, will be able to share the burn plans?
Yeah, we generally don't share burn plans just because they're considered legal documents as well. However, we are happy to present information once on the burn plans. The private Cedar Park project that we are working with Courtney on, that burn plan is not completed at this time. Because it's not done being cut. So you don't want to put the cart before the horse too much on that. If their question was referring to the Forest Service side of the ship, I would defer that to our wonderful colleagues across the fence line.
I have a
Yeah,
question. Hello. So with the burns, do we like bring slash to the burn area to burn, or how does that work?
Yeah, great clarification. Thank you for asking that, Liz. We had this question actually come up from another community member as well. So this is not a community slash program. We are, as part of the pile burn crew that Daniel mentioned, we actually did submit a separate grant to be able to purchase equipment to assist with that type of community slash program where people could bring material to a centralized location and pay.
Yeah, we did that years ago.
You did it years ago? Okay. But these two pile burn projects that we have going on, US Forest is just for the material that's been cut on US Forest land, and the funding that BTWC is just for the material that's been cut at Sylvandale right now.
Gotcha. Okay.
But is that something of interest generally for the community? I think that's a question that a lot of the partners have been ruminating on.
Yeah, years ago we had a chipping program, and we could all bring our slash there, and it all got chipped and hauled away. It was awesome.
Do you know who managed that or who owned the equipment?
Boy, I don't.
Okay.
But it was a long time ago. I've been here 23 years, so it's been a while ago. Karen Dilka, I know you're on here. I don't know if you remember.
No, actually, I don't. I remember the program, but it might have been after the Bobcat fire.
Oh, that might be true. Yeah, because that was in 2000.
Yeah, and if that's something that's worked for the community before and people are interested in, it's absolutely something we can think about for our planning process and think about for organizations like BTWC to apply to future grants for. I think one thing when we get to the planning process is just thinking about how can we do the most effectively using funds. So I wonder what cost comparison is for chipping versus pile burning versus other ways of processing. But we would love to think about that further with you all.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
And we did have a clarification on that first question by Deb. She was referring to the Forest Service burn that could start this winter.
So with this thinning program that we can, oh, of course the phone rings. Does that, do they haul that stuff away with the thinning, or am I charged? Do they just chop stuff down and we get rid of it, or?
With the last project that I mentioned? or with just a general future potential?
That one that we just, the plan that you had on there where we could pay to have somebody come and do the thinning.
Yep, so we're looking specifically to work with about 8 landowners for that one. So we will have an application process. And we're hopefully going to make the applications short and sweet. You can fill it out online. And we would manage the contractors who do the thinning, and then we would also manage the people doing the chipping or the piling and the pile burning. So it'll be all lumped into those total sums. But if you're looking to have, you know, the more work you're looking to have done on your property, it is going to be a higher cost share and a higher price point.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? You are welcome to unmute yourself if you want to join us, or feel free to open up the chat box and you can throw a question in there as well. And Matt, I think there was, we wanted to just clarify in terms of the burn plan for US Forest Service, what's the typical practice or protocol on that?
Unmute. Yes, as like Daniel had mentioned, that more or less the same legalities standpoint. I haven't had anybody request a burn plan per se, but I think I can look into it, but I'm fairly certain the same legalities hold true for the Forest Service with that document specifically. We have shared maps to the vault or to the fire protection districts and other pertinent information. Generally, that's who we'll share our info with when it comes to pile burning as a you know, a neighborly thing. So, but legality wise, I think we stand in the same vein as what the Forest Steward Guild mentioned.
There are like specific questions though that the community has. We can, you know, try to answer as many of them as we can. So.
Yeah, and I'm with my email, I'm open to, and I have several other questions that I know the community has expressed and passed along to me. I'm more than willing, if you were to email me, to answer any specific questions regarding the burn, real specific if you need to. I'm happy to answer those questions.
Thank you.
Other questions? There was a lot of information presented, so I understand if everyone wants to process and digest it all and then reach out to individuals, that is absolutely an opportunity here too. Great, and I don't think there's any questions that we missed in the chat box here. As a last option, if anyone does want to email me directly, feel free to. We were hoping, I think we did record the majority of this meeting. I think we maybe missed the first 5 minutes, but we will post that to the IO listserv group and potentially can post it to the Storm Mountain Facebook group as well. And we can also share this slideshow that we've gone through today if it helps to communicate anything else to other neighbors who weren't able to make it here today. Are there any questions that our presenters have for the community while we're here together? No. Okay, I'm sure there'll be more to come. So with that, I just want to say thank you all for joining us today. So appreciate you attending this meeting. I'm happy. It seems like it has worked out. This is our first attempt at a virtual community meeting. So we so appreciate you being a part of this process, and please do reach out to us with more questions. Presenters, thank you all so much. So appreciate you all being here tonight and sharing your evening with us.
Thank you.
And I'll stick on the line another few minutes if anyone has additional questions. Thanks all, have a great evening. I forgot to mention though, we do have another community meeting on the 28th for anyone impacted by the Cameron Peak fire to learn DIY restoration techniques for erosion control. It's one of our first step workshops, just thinking about the breadth of the fire and how much acreage was impacted. just try to give people the heads up on what potential opportunities there are on the ground. So feel free to reach out about that. That is on the 28th. We did post it on our Facebook. Thanks all. Have a great evening.